You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster, Joe Benazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back. It is Thursday. Time to rock out with everyone's favorite bi-weekly source for all things options related. Yes, it is time once again for the Option Block, what the cool kids call the old OB. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as on the network upon which all of you folks are binging these days. Man, so much stuff coming at you, including every day after the closing bell. You get a taste of Thor Odinson, a.k.a. the Hot Options Report, coming at you every day. It's a fun new addition to the show. Just celebrated the 1-year anniversary of another new edition, the Futures Rundown. Man, it's been wild on the new content front, so yet another reminder, wherever you're getting this show, wherever you get your favorite podcast, make sure you're subscribed to the full Options Insider Radio Network. And then when you're ready to go above and beyond, the optionsinsider.com/pro. Awesome stuff like our pro Q&A session we had earlier this week with our good buddy Scott Nations. Our buddy the Flowmaster may have been in there. He may have picked himself a Vol deathmatch fight. We'll see. We'll see about all of that fun. But check it out for yourselves. The optionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go as we go around the horn. First, to the hinterlands of Chicago we go, where we are joined once again by the uncleist of Mike's, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show. Are you and your crypto-loving squad ready for the next week to kick off in our fantasy league, sir?
Oh, we are ready. Well, actually, no, I got to get my lineup set for tonight, but I will be ready.
You got Mr. McCaffrey in there. It's a question, see what's going on with him. Niners obviously in the news this week, so it should be kind of interesting out there. A fun week as always, and then always a fun week on the Thursday show when we are joined once again by our good buddy, the Flowmaster. When he's not picking Vol deathmatch fights, he's flying out to Vegas for all sorts of cool shindigs. So he's not joining us from Cboe East. He's joining us from Cboe West today, a.k.a. Vegas. The Flowmaster himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz. Mr. Flowmaster, how goes Cboe West, sir?
Well, I guess this would be Cboe in the desert. It's great. Las Vegas it's a fun town, and I'm here for the Robinhood Summit the Hood Summit 2025, which is where they bring in 2,000 of their top traders and largest accounts. That's a lot of people. In Miami, they did it last year. There were about 1,200 of their traders, and 2 full days of content. All of their senior management. Vlad unveiled some really interesting new functionality. I got to say, it was it doesn't hurt that the market's at all-time highs and that there's just kind of a lot of exciting things happening in the market. But it was exciting, and Cboe announced a few new products. We can get into those later, but I'm happy to join you and catch up.
It does sound weird when you say Hood Summit. It sounds a little dubious. It sounds a little shady, but interesting stuff all around as we kick off the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody, here we go. Welcome to the trading block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading out there. And spoiler alert, a lot of green on the screen. I have a feeling Uncle Mike might be chiming in with his trademark phrase a little bit later in the show. But all sorts of fun here on the screen today, in spite of the fact that we got a CPI number that wasn't exactly bolstering for the soul, 2.9%. That's pretty spicy. That's up a bit from a year ago, but it matched the forecast. So I suppose that's the silver lining. Everyone expected a bad number, so when the bad number comes in, I guess not that surprising. Unemployment also not looking great. The jobs market in general, it's not looking great. And that is really the fuel a lot of folks are looking at for really why the Fed is probably going to cut. I mean, you look at the CME Fed Watch, it's 100% of a cut next week. It's just a question of how much, which is a rare degree of certainty on the Fed side. We don't see that too often out there, which would be fascinating if they decided to hold fast or, God forbid, raise a quarter point. Imagine what the response to that would be. But as we're coming into the start of the show today, we're seeing the Dow up about 1.33%, S&P up about 0.8%, and the NASDAQ up about 0.2%. Our old pal VIX Cash ticking below the 15 handle again. It was at about a 15 right about start of the show time. It's ticked down to close to 14.75 now, which puts it down about half a point from where it was on the Monday show. Not a huge evolution on the vol front, probably because VVIX remains stubbornly persistent. It's at about a 97. It's actually up 4 points from where it was this time on the Monday show. So a lot to unpack out there. Let's go back to Cboe Desert / Cboe West first, and then we'll get Uncle Mike's trademark phrase in a little. I'm going to make him wait. But Mr. Flowmaster, sir, like you said, 2,000 Robinhood folks out there. We just had the Robinhood folks on the network not too long ago. It does seem, talking to those folks, they clearly have the options market square in their sights. In fact, talking to those folks, you can go listen to our conversation. If you like listeners for yourselves, it's available there on the network. Just go back into our interview archives from just about a few weeks ago. Everyone associates Robinhood with the fractional shares and the small accounts, but they are aiming at the higher end of the options market, at least in their own words. So what were your thoughts? Any other takeaways from the big Robinhood Summit from the options front? Did they unveil any cool new options features? And then what else is cooking in the land of Cboe Desert, sir?
Sure. So yeah, they did release live on stage with the F1 track as the backdrop, a whole slew of new features. I don't even know if I remember all of them, but I know for sure they're going to permit overnight trading of SPX and XSP index options later this year. So, the overnight hours basically go from 8:15 New York time right up until 9:25 the next morning. So Robinhood traders will have access to that. And I actually they have more international accounts than I realized. So, that may actually capture some of that overseas activity as well. In terms of the options, they had some new scenario analysis tools, basically where you can put in a single like option trade, and right from the order ticket, you can adjust the time and the volatility and see the scenario payoff. Basically the kind of hockey stick charts that we are used to, but a very nice, elegant implementation in their Legend platform. I really was genuinely impressed and surprised. They also announced that for the first time, traders can short stocks. They've actually never had shorting, so that's something that's very common on kind of all the incumbent brokerage platforms. But Robinhood traders will now be able to short if they want to. They actually had a woman give a great talk on shorting. She was the one that had discovered a couple of major frauds, including the Wirecard one in Europe. And then they had AI-based chart indicator creation, which is, a lot of people love to do technicals and talk about this and that, Ichimoku's and different moving averages. Well, they have an implementation of custom indicators where you just basically type into a ChatGPT style window and say, I want to use the 57-day moving average, or I want to see depth crosses. And so I'm really excited to play with that, especially to see if I have access to the option dynamics. So to be able to do charting and also, include things like, here's a breakout and the call volume is, more than 2 times normal. And then we can come up with a catchy name for that. And maybe we can apply for a trademark. And we actually, Cboe, we're a major sponsor, and we announced our Mag 10 suite of futures and options at the event as well. So there was a lot going on, but I got to tell you, it was a very bullish crowd, very hungry to learn. And the data shows that the market is getting about 8 million contracts a day out of Robinhood. So they are basically kind of neck and neck with Schwab in terms of the daily volume that they're sending into the market. And to see them kind of cranking out new features, and they had some of their super smart quants and developers explaining the newest functionality. And it really is very targeted to kind of what their audience and what their community likes. And then the last thing actually that I was also pretty impressed by is they're going to roll out a whole social functionality where people can basically tweet effectively their trades, but it's going to be verified. Meaning you can't say I just bought a bunch of XYZ unless you actually did it, and then people can follow, and there'll be rankings, and it's a little bit along the lines of the copy trader functionality, which is basically you may say, okay, I really like what this person has to say, and I want to see what they're trading, and maybe even kind of copycat what they trade very quickly after they trade it. So it's been very exciting. I'm headed back to New York now, but it really was a great event.
Yeah, sounds pretty fascinating. They talked about some of those pre-trade analytics they're making available in our conversation with us. It's kind of cool that all that stuff is before you hit the trade button. You could see the visualization of how your trade might look and how some tweaks might change the P&L out there. All that stuff happens post-trade very often. Good to see it pre-trade. At the end of the day, more information for the Robinhood folks, the better. So interesting stuff. Are you kicking the tires on Robinhood, listeners? Are you playing ball out there? They're going to need portfolio margin if they really want to go to the high end of the options market, but they're chipping away at some of the interesting offerings that audience requires out there. So interesting stuff on the Robinhood front. I'm curious if you're using Robinhood, and if you like it, hit us up. Maybe if you things you don't like the portfolio margin, hit us up. Let us know. As we go out to Uncle Mike, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, as you're hurriedly getting your fantasy team in gear for tonight, is there anything you want to share with the audience?
Never before in the history of the entire stock market has there ever been a better time to sell than today. We have new all-time highs today in the S&P 500. We hit 65.87. We're just 4 points below it right now as I'm making this wonderful announcement for the bulls. And we continue to make new all-time highs. Always an exciting time whenever that happens. And so it's going to continue to be interesting to see if we can continue to make new all-time highs, especially considering if you just look back a very short time ago, roughly 5 months ago in April. Right now we're at 65.87. In April, we got to a low of 48.35. And so you never know what the market can do unless you give it a chance. And the bulls gave it a chance over the course of these last 5 months, of course. And the market has done very well, to say the least. So we're up almost we're up over 30% from our lows in April. And so from there, it's like I said, it's very exciting when markets do this. So the thing that's also both exciting to me and concerning at the same time is the shiny stuff, the metals continuing to make all these new highs. And so if inflation is a concern, you would think that metals would be going higher, and metals are going higher. So that's something to where, yes, you have the CPI numbers and the PPI numbers and things like that, but markets don't lie. Numbers like that can lie sometimes or not tell the full story. And the fact that we are having the shiny stuff go higher, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about that actually happening for the clients that I have in silver. But it's something to where we really do need to keep an eye on it, because the last time that silver went up like it did in 2011, it went up very suddenly. This has kind of been a more of a sustained rally in silver. So that's something we need to continue to keep an eye on with regard to inflation. From what it looks like right now, we will be getting a rate cut of 25 basis points next time the Fed meets. So that's another thing that we need to keep an eye on and seeing how the markets react to it, because it seems that that's kind of the common feel to where everything wants to be. And then once the news actually happens, then that might be a time with which you can sell off. So with that, I've said this several times throughout 2025. 2025 is really the year of the collar, in my opinion. Or if you're not in a collar right now and you're concerned that we're at all-time highs, perhaps a protective put, because you do have a VIX that is below 15. Of course, it depends on your holdings and the pricing of the individual puts or the index that matches your stocks, whatever the case may be. So we do have a lot of that happening. We do have new all-time highs today. And so it's just kind of an exciting day. That's what I'm seeing right now, Mark.
Exciting day indeed, especially for the unklist of Mike's. I was going to ask you that. I'm glad you brought that up. I was talking about this on our Pro Q&A with Scott Nations earlier this week as well. You're right. It is not often that you see your beloved shiny stuff and your beloved S&P both making new all-time highs at the same time. There's a reason why you usually have both of those in a portfolio. Usually they don't move in lockstep. So a kind of weird stuff. And I was going to ask you if that gives you any pause right now. And it sounds like it does give you a little bit of pause, sir.
Short-term cautious. I'm long-term bullish, short-term cautious. I think that for my clients that are in their buy and hold stuff, we're still buying, we're still holding, but I'm very happy at these levels that we do have plans in place with protective puts in case the market does have a pullback. We're not quite a level to where we want to roll up our puts from where they were as of yet, but we're getting pretty close.
All right, listeners, are you rolling your puts? What are you up to out there? Let's find out what the market is up to, shall we, listeners, as we pop off with a little bit of what's trading out there. And usually a lot of green on the screen isn't exactly explosive on the volume front, especially in VIX land, but not the case today. Maybe just the aggressive nature of the move, or just in general, a lot of eyes coming. We've seen a lot of funky verticals and spreads going up that have kind of been ginning up the numbers in VIX land, like yesterday. A lot of funky 60 par and 110 stuff going up. That's driving a lot of flow. Nothing that crazy today, but we are seeing an interesting one at number one. I'll get there in a second. It's a decently active day out there, though, as we're coming into the start of the show. Over 500,000 contracts already, 510 on the tape in VIX land. So a pretty impressive start to the day, all things considered, listeners. The ADV is up to 876 right now, so that's sort of about 100,000 contracts. So again, VIX not messing around, shaking off the summer doldrums and getting ready to rock here in September. The hot option out there in VIX land today, you might be saying, I don't know, maybe some 20s, some 15 puts, some 17 puts, all excellent candidates, all things that have been lighting up the tape. And in fact, the 20s are number two today. But number one, listeners, are the Feb 60s, 6-0s. And I went and checked right as the Flow Master was talking, just to see if maybe this is part of some more of that funky, 60, 100 upside or any of that kind of stuff. And it doesn't appear to be the case. It looks like 30,000 of these going up straight up. Listeners, for 60 cents, Feb 60s, apropos really of nothing else. So we thought, that's a good That's a good candidate for a little flash poll right now. Just went live a few minutes ago. Again, Feb 60s dominating the tape in VixLand today, 60 cents. Are you a buyer? Are you sold to you? Or are you a seller, but maybe a little bit more risk mitigated fashion as part of a vertical? So you're going to buy something lower, let's say, I don't know, the 30s, and then you sell the 60s against them, something along those lines. And right now, our audience is pretty much evenly split. I lied, it just ticked. Now we got about 25% each for buyer and sold to you. 50% of you want to sell them, but as part of a vertical. Again, this just went live. We'll keep it live throughout the rest of the day, so you folks listening on the podcast, you can play along as well. We haven't forgotten about you as we keep on rolling out to Spy Land. Is it a hot day in Spy? The answer also yes. So today, delivering on the volume front, 6 million contracts. It's been a little while since we've been hitting 6 million at this point of the show. The ADV about 7.8 million. So yeah, spoiler alert, we're going to hit that out there. The S also roaring out of the gate, 2.75 million contracts right now. The ADV a little bit shy of 4. So going to hit that probably today as well. Small caps over 1 million already. 1.2 million contracts on the tape in IWM. Again, it's been a while. We saw, I should say, really small caps just roar out of the gate a few weeks ago, putting up 2.25 million contracts, and then kind of getting quiet. Oh, looks like it's going ex-div out there. That could also explain why we're seeing some of the hot flow we're seeing out there today. But small caps, IWM, 1.2 million contracts, ADV 1.4. So does seem like we're going to hit that. That said, the hot option out there in small caps today, 69,000 of the 227 puts. So ACH 227 puts. Kind of interesting, not usually the kind of stuff you'd expect to see if it was a div play paper. So kind of interesting stuff out there. So small caps lighting it up today. And then not to be outdone, the Qs, 2.5 million contracts. So slightly more than we'd expect this time of the show, I'd say out there. Usually they're around 2.25, so 2.5. A little bit heavier. The ADV a little bit north of 4, about 4.2 million. All right, out to single name land. And we got a banger out here today, listeners. Not just in really what it costs you to break into the top 10. That's fine. 372, that's respectable. That's north of 350, which is our borderline, our bar for respectability. But also, what's taking the top spot right now? An absolute banger. We're going to get there in a second. But just wild stuff. Wild stuff on the single name front. Let's get out to number 10, listeners. This is a frequent offender. This is Palantir number 10, 372 on the tape. Trading 165, pretty much even, off about $1.70 or about 1%. You know Palantir, it sells off and then it rallies. And it sells off, and it looks like it sold off today to 163.60 before rallying. So maybe it's on the second leg of that now. Either way, good for number 10. And number 9, listeners, we've got good old Intel, my old stomping grounds. Kind of vacillating around a bit today between about 24.5 to the downside, 24.93 to the upside. So not exactly a wild day for Intel, but putting up some numbers today. 504,000 contracts on the tape for good old Intel. You know them. We all are co-owners of Intel out there right now. So it looks like some hot stuff, including a whole bunch of flex going up, which could be gumming up that number a little bit out there. But interesting stuff. Intel, number 9, 504,000 contracts. Number 8, keeping it in the tech names, it's Micron. Not a name we see that all that often. 153.25, up 13.25. So huge move for them. 9.5%. Looks like they got a analyst upgrade. Man, okay. Micron back from the dead. When's the last time we talked about Micron? Apparently today, listeners. Number 8, 521 on the tape. Number 7, good old AMDA, 156.25, off about 3.25 or about 2%. Good for number 7, 542 on the tape. Number 6, going out to China, 156.57 for Alibaba, rallying 12.60 or nearly 9%. Man, hot day in China. They had a massive convertible offering. Not normally bullish. Kind of interesting. But something. More buyers than sellers out there in Alibaba, listeners. Number 7, 542 on the tape for them. Number 5, it's Apple, the fruit company, gaining back some of its losses. It's been taking it on the chin the last few sessions, off about 12, 14 handles, somewhere in that ballpark ever since they announced their new iPhone. I said it before, Apple's a buy the rumor, sell the fact name. Very much playing out right now. Getting some of that back again today. Up about 270, a little over 1%, trading 229.5. Good for the number 5 spot, the fruit company. Just a tick under 700K on the tape today. Number 4, it's Oracle. Interesting. We'll get there in a second where it's trading. But Oracle, what a wild run this one's on. Up 80-odd handles yesterday, just exploding to the top of our list. Larry Ellison kicking Musk to the curb on the world's richest man list. So all sorts of badness going on out there. Oracle, who knew? But that said, 832 on the tape today, and what made me excited was looking at the screen here. It's trading 310.60, off about nearly $18 or 5.5%. What's interesting is yesterday the hot option out there in Oracle, pretty much right at the top of our list yesterday, were the par puts, the 300 puts expiring tomorrow. They were 20-odd, 30-odd handles out of the money at the time. As we said, it seemed like a fairly wild number one. I think they were going up for about $1.25, somewhere in that ballpark too. So they were not giving these away. It seemed like a rich put with about a couple of days to go. But then again, if you thought this Oracle thing was overdone, maybe you wanted to buy that bad boy. It would have been a good flash pull. But they're looking a lot better today. Still got a ways to go to break that par strike. But I don't know. If you think this Oracle thing is overdone, maybe those par puts are your huckleberry. Either way, number 4 today, Oracle, 832 on the tape. Number 3, yes, I said number 3. What is going on today, listeners? Wild stuff. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. It's NVIDIA. Kicked all the way down to number 3. 1.48 million contracts. 177.11, off about 21 cents, or about 0.1%. Not exactly a banger day for NVIDIA out there. Good for the number 3 spot, 1.48 million. What's number 2? It's our old pal Tesla. You know, they put up some bad numbers the other day, and yet the stock continues to rally. So shrugging off the fact that they can't really move cars. But I guess it's all robo-taxis and everything else right now. And the $1 trillion pay package for Musk. All sorts of fun. 364 even, up 16.25, about 4.7%. Tesla, good for the number 2 spot today, 2.11 million. So we hit NVIDIA, we hit Tesla, we even hit Oracle and Apple. What the hell is number 1? Well, you notice there's one name we've been talking about a lot lately that I did not mention on the list today. So if you said, where's Open? You've been paying attention, listeners. Open, roaring into the top spot today. 2.75 million contracts. Just absolutely wild stuff out here. Open, I don't even know where to begin with this stock. Rallying 360 or 61%. There's a 9 handle on Open now, listeners. 944, got as high as nearly $10. 994 out there today. We're just talking about the 6s and the 7s and how wild those seemed. Could they hit the 7 strike? They had traded for, I think, 15 to 25 cents earlier this week. It seemed like people had just thrown money out the window on those, and now here they are, several dollars to the good. What the hell is going on out there besides more buyers and sellers? Well, they got a new CEO. They named the former Shopify exec as their CEO, and also apparently their co-founder is coming back as chairman of the board, and they kicked their old CEO to the curb a while ago. Nobody liked her, apparently. So that trifecta of events is enough to sell and to send the Open kids into the stratosphere out there. Just wild stuff. We were just talking about overriding the 2 halves for about $0.25, and people were very excited to do that. Those are now $7 in the money. Just absolutely wild stuff. Again, you trade these things at your peril. You overwrite them at your peril. Just absolutely wild stuff. I don't know what else could even begin to compare with that. Obviously, we had some earnings this week. Oracle just blowing the doors off on Tuesday. GameStop, actually surprisingly decent numbers. I think a lot of that was on the back of they just own a bunch of Bitcoin now. So they're a Bitcoin play like just about everybody else. Chewy was on Wednesday. Vera Bradley and Adobe today. Kind of coming into the dregs of the season out there. That said, we do have updated earnings move results, and earnings season reports. You can check them out on the website if you like. How's the season hanging out right now? Is it still a banger time to buy vol? Well, the answer is yes. 128% is how our season is hanging out right now. That is blowing away our long-term average of 119%, which is already absurd. So the short answer is in aggregate, if you're looking at an earnings play and you're hovering which way to go, it's okay not to do it. But if you are going to do it, you want to lean, seems like these days, for most names, lean towards the long, which we don't say very often. In fact, we almost never say that. So that shows you kind of what rarefied territory we are in right now. And speaking of rarefied territory, it's always that case on Thursday because it's time to unleash the Flowmaster for a little bit of the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, let's get to it, listeners. We can't bury the lead anymore. Mr. Flowmaster, I'm glad you had it in here because I was going to ask you about this anyway. We can't not talk about this. It is the juggernaut, the elephant in the room. Open, WTF, sir. What are you seeing out there?
Well, it's, I guess we shouldn't swear, but it's freaking nuts. It looks like Open's going to trade about 4 million contracts today. This stock was 50 cents in July. I remember going up to Yahoo Finance to talk about zero DTE, and they said, we don't want to talk about zero DTE, we want to talk about Open. And that was the day that it went from, I believe, around $1 up to about $3. And it's now approaching $10. It was actually mentioned on stage at the Hood Summit yesterday in a discussion between Vlad and a venture capitalist. So it's a little bit crazy. I get it that, if they change management, maybe there's kind of a true fundamental shift in their business model or something, but it's kind of got checks all the boxes when we talk about, a true meme stock, basically, incredible volume. And in fact, the most active is the 10 strike calls that expire tomorrow. 155,000 of these things have traded from a nickel to 86 cents. So, I don't know, I guess the more these things happen, the more they stay the same. Things that don't necessarily make any fundamental sense. You know what? The market is going to do what it wants. Currently there's no bar available for Open. So anybody that had the guts to short it is getting annihilated. Volatility, implied vol is around 225%. It's just all crazy on the call volume. I guess it really is a symptom. And the truth is, I kind of agree with what Mike said, short-term cautious, we're at all-time highs, everything's going up, right? And bad news is good news for the moment, right? So, any weakness, basically, people are viewing as, a force that might accelerate the rate cuts, and that's good for the market. But then you kind of step back a little bit and kind of question the health of everything. But it's just crazy, and it was, meme stocks, they've never gone away. It really just kind of represents, it's a new style of trading. It's completely kind of divorced from value, but value is not what controls the stock price, right? But, buyers versus sellers controls the stock price in the short term. So, it's just crazy. I don't know what to say about it. I've scalped around in the stock in the past. I'm going to stay the heck away from it because as much as it could go up to $12 tomorrow, it could also go back down to $6 or $4 or $2. So it's but man, to see currently almost 2 million calls and about 1 million puts, and like I said, on pace for 4 million contracts, most active single stock. Just tell you, and you know what? I mean, I'm here for a Robinhood Summit, and like I said, Robinhood traders, playing in the meme stocks is part of what they do, as well as all the other retail traders out there. And when you see moves like this, you realize why people take a shot, because if it's up 60% today, then maybe the next thing that you see has the same potential.
Yeah, absolutely wild stuff, Mr. Flowmaster. I don't know where to begin on this name. And you're right. If you're just riding the stock, yeah, you're doing all right. But it could be $6, $4, $2.50 again. Again, we're just talking about overriding the 2.5s. I want to say a week ago for a quarter, and people were excited to get that. So, Yeah, just absolutely wild stuff out here, listeners. Whatever iteration of meme stock palooza it is now, 5.0, I don't know what number we're on, but open definitely the standard bearer these days. All right, out to, speaking of going from a standard bearer to a name that's, I hate to call it an also ran, but this was going to be the hot thing a few years ago. This was going to be the name that usurped YouTube on the video and content sharing front. Everyone was talking about Vimeo. You didn't have all the draconian issues that with YouTube. You had more control over your stuff. A lot of benefits to using Vimeo over YouTube. For whatever reason, it didn't have the network effect that YouTube did at the end of the day. But Vimeo still kicking around, fighting the good fight, trading $7.73 today, listeners. Down a penny. So that's about as exciting as the underlying is. And let's see over the past year what's up with Vimeo. A year ago, they were trading $5. So they've had a nice run. About 2 3/4 or about 55%. That said, they rallied first back in December to about this, a little lower, 732 looks like. And then they mostly sold off again until July of this year when they sold off to about 365. So if you bought this, actually August 1st, they were 365. So if you bought this at the beginning of August, a little over a month ago, you've had a 2Xer already. A lot of this over the span of just the last week and change. They were $4 on September 2nd. And then they started turning up on the 9th. They were 481 and then just rocketing north out there today. Looks like this kind of chart looks like a corporate action chart, and that does appear to be the case. Looks like there's a bid to take Vimeo private, $1.4 billion deal to be acquired by Bending Spoons. So there you go. Bending Spoons apparently has $1.4 billion to spend on video. So it's the new pivot to video here, Mr. Flowmaster, just in the year 2025. So yeah, interesting stuff. I can't remember the last time I've really talked about or thought about video, Mr. Flow, or I should say Vimeo, Mr. Flowmaster. So what's catching your eye out there today on the heels of this deal?
Yeah, so, every time we see a takeout in a stock that's up, 40, 50, 60%, we go back and look at the option flow because there are situations where some kind of sketchy activity takes place in front of a deal. There are court cases and people have gone to jail for it. And so in Vimeo, which actually, we used Vimeo as the video hosting for Trade Alert for a while. So I understand what the service is, but you're exactly right. It's kind of like everybody just uses YouTube. But so the average daily volume in this thing, as you said, you barely ever talk about it. It was averaging about 250 contracts a day. You look back at the volume chart, there's really almost nothing going on, except for 2 days before the deal. And it's not a huge trade, but on the 8th, so was that Monday? We saw a buyer pay 15 cents for 500 of the October 5 calls to open a position. Now, it's not a giant trade. It's $7,500 worth of premium. Stock was not too far away from there, but it was well below, and these are basically expire in 5 or 6 weeks. And so on the deal, these are now $285 in the money. That's a 1,900% return in 2 days. So $135,000 in profit on $7,500 that was risked, and probably not enough to get investigated, and very possible that it was just somebody that liked the name and that they've been in and out. I do see some blocky call volume every once in a while. Last time it was back in August, but this time they really did. They hit the jackpot, as we say in Las Vegas.
As we say, now that you are a Las Vegasian. Yeah, I love it here. All right, let's keep rolling with our next victim. Let's go out to Recursion Pharmaceuticals. And if you couldn't figure out what they did by their name, listeners, their ticker is RXRX. So if that didn't give you a hint, then I don't know what does, listeners. RXRX trading 489, up about 35 cents or 7.6%. So a good day to be in the RXRX business. On the year, they still got some digging to do. They're still off about $1.60 or about 24%. So not a great year. And they did rally back on Valentine's Day, right around that time frame, to about 1236, it looks like. So from that perspective, they are off quite a bit. So a rough year. That said, they are off their lows. Their lows looks like they came on April 8th of about 380. So right about $1 south of where they are right now. So if you want a glass half full, they are about $1 off their lows. But they are also quite a bit off their highs and off about $1.50 still for the year. So Mr. Mr. Flowmaster, not exactly the booming pharma biotech chart we're used to here. What's catching your eye out here, sir?
Yeah, I think I've said in the past, I have found that option flow in the pharma names actually can be pretty accurate. So, these are names, especially if they're a one drug name. I don't know if that is the case for this company, but, pharma names are kind of like, it's like earnings, right? They trial results come out and the stock can quadruple or the stock can kind of go to zero. This looks a little bit different. And so what we're seeing is total call volume of about 62,000 contracts. That's 9 times normal versus not even 2,000 puts. So it's really all on call volume. Volatility is up sharply as well. I think we're about 10 points to 100 or so in the kind of the short end of things. Actually, it's relatively flat. It's basically 100 vol name all the way in a couple of years. The blocks are relatively small. So the one that caught my eye was a buyer of the tomorrow 5/2 calls. They paid a nickel to open. That's when stock was at 493 this morning. So stock's actually kind of come back a little bit, but they were an aggressive buyer. Some of them offered a nickel. They paid up to 6 cents for some of those. And just before that, we'd seen a buyer of 2,000 of the regular set 5/2 calls. They paid a dime. So, where it stands right now, we got 20,000 of those of the tomorrow 5/2 calls, and mostly bought, as well as a lot of 5-strike calls for September, even some 6-strike calls for D. So it's basically just kind of like, all over the place call buying, unusually large, when you get a $5 stock, it might be worth a flyer. What are you going to do in options or maybe I'd probably just scout the stock myself. But this definitely it's definitely an odd one to me.
Since we're talking oddities, let's get out of here on one more. We'll do a bonus one because the Flow Match is with us today. This is actually a name we talked about a few times recently on our Options Oddity show. Check it out, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. If you are intrigued, this is Teck Resources, a Canadian mining and mineral development name. They do copper, zinc, coal, all kinds of stuff. Ticker symbol Teck, TECK, trading 41.80 today, up about $1.34, 3.3%. If you listen to Oddities, you know the story of this one. A year ago, it was about $3 higher. So they're off about 7% on the year. Their high was $54. They got there back in September of last year. And the low came on April 8th, about 28 1/3. So they're substantially north of their low, but also below their high for the year as well, kind of splitting the uprights there. So we've been talking about this one for a little bit on the Oddities show. Mr. Flowmaster, what caught your eye, sir?
So, yeah, I mean, we've been talking about, well, I guess how the price of everything's been going on, and been going up. So, in this case, it was call buying. So, in fact, just at noon, a buyer of 3,450 of the September 26th 45 strike calls. They paid 34 cents to open, so $4 out of the money. Just kind of a standout, I mean, the way things have been going, right? And we really have been marching higher, very strong rally. I don't know how long it's going to continue, but you do kind of get the feeling that people are kind of starting to, FOMO is kicking in, right? It's a very, very strong emotion, which is, I just missed 4 or 5% in the market, and so one of the ways that that institutional portfolio managers try to recover from that is actually to use the leverage in options. So, this is a big trade. It's only 34 cents, but it's 3,400 of them. Canadian, so maybe it's got some tariff-related kind of angle as well. But just another kind of solid chunk of pretty clear-cut bullish flow.
Yeah, I went and looked while you were talking to see what we were talking about most recently, and it was our August 28th episode of Options Oddities. Again, on the pro side, if you want to check it all out, listeners. And the stock was $33.20, and we were talking about the D's 45s for 36 cents, going up about 5,000 times. They seemed like an interesting trade. We like the duration. We were a little bit iffy on the strike because it was $12 out of the money at the time. Obviously, the stock has rallied quite a bit. Those D's 45s are looking pretty good right now, listeners. So yet another reason to be checking out the world of the pro as we keep on going into, let's go real quick, mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck you folks have on the brain. Let's check in really quickly on that poll I just mentioned went live just a few minutes ago out there. Our flash poll on those Feb 60s. Yeah, you guys can't make up your mind. Now you're about 30% each for buying them, sold to you, and sold as part of a vertical or a spread. So very much head scratcher on that, which I get it. It's a weird strike. You don't really want to buy it. You don't really want to sell it. That's why we give you the option, of course, of going the vertical route. In terms of our actual question of the week, it's kind of more of a fun one to celebrate the launch of our inaugural Options Insider Fantasy Football League, which I am pleased to say I took a victory in week 1 against a very hotly contested battle between our guest and myself coming up on the next episode, the next TWIFO with Carly Garner. She put up a spirited fight. It was definitely the highest scoring contest of the week. She would have beat everybody else in the league, but our Options Insider squad. Nope, we took the top spot, rocketing in the power rankings all the way to number 2, listeners. I think we started off at number 8 or something ridiculous. Obviously, the AI doesn't know what it's doing when it's ranking our stuff, but a good week for us. We're facing off against one of our pro members this week, I do believe, so that should be kind of fun. Taking it to the listeners is always fun. But we, as a result of that, as a way to celebrate that this week, we have a fun little question of the week, which is quite simply, if you had to buy a call option on one team to make it all the way to the Super Bowl, not to win it, just to get there, which team you picking? We gave you 4 choices, 4 pretty obvious choices: Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, or Ravens. If you think somebody else is worthy, you can, of course, write in. Mr. Uncle Mike, which of those 4 teams are you buying your call option on? B, which way do you think our audience is going? And C, who are you playing this week? And do you have any smack talk for them in the leagues?
Well, in terms of the Super Bowl, 100% Bills Mafia from me, 100% Bills Mafia from the audience. If you don't believe me, go back and watch how they came back against the Ravens last Sunday night. The Ravens had them circled on their schedule all offseason. The Ravens had a 15-point lead in the fourth quarter. Buffalo came back and won it. The stars are aligned. It's the last season in Rich Stadium, or I'm sorry, whatever they call it now. I don't even care. It's Rich Stadium to me, in my opinion. But it's the last season there. They're going to send out that stadium with a bang. And there's just too many good things happening in Buffalo right now. 100% all in calls on the Buffalo Bills.
You know, there's a reason why I went for Josh Allen in our draft a little earlier. I surprised some folks going for a QB early. I upset the QB market in our draft, but hey, it worked out. Josh Allen carried me to victory this week. Carly Garner was cursing his name. By the way, that was a wild game. You're right. That was an absolutely wild game on Sunday night. And you are right, Mr. Uncle Mike. The Bills Mafia is taking it right now. 36.8%. Tied for second, 26.3% each between the Chiefs and the Ravens. Defending champs, the Eagles, only 10.5%. No love for them. I'm surprised not even one person writing in the Bears just for fun. Just because so many of you I know are coming out of Chicago. Write in your local team. Go ahead. We got some write-ins. You can have to write in the Chiefs. The Chiefs are already part of the poll, but people are writing in the Chiefs nonetheless. So there we go, listeners. Have fun out there as we keep on rolling. It is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, let's go around the block where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on for the rest of the week into the weekend on the Monday show. And as we're kicking off this last segment of the show, we're pretty much where we were at the start of the show. The S&P up about 0.75%, the Dow up about 1.3%, NASDAQ up about 0.2%, and VIX cash a little bit higher, 1485 right now. But other than that, it's pretty much the exact same spot we were in at the start of the show. Let's look really quickly. Has VIX put up any more wild paper since we've been talking? Nope, 518. It's but done a whole lot of nothing for the entirety of the show. So that 500,000 to start the day, that might be it. But we'll see. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what are you keeping an eye on? And also, you folks have some cool new items in the offing over there in Cboe land. What you cooking up, sir?
Sure. Well, I'll basically just by kind of trying to pay attention to the macro picture. You know, the rate cut. People are looking very closely at data, but the way it kind of feels right now is we all can feel there's just a strong bid for the market. I really am excited about this Mag 10 index, especially because it's got futures, and so we know that there's a fire alarm in the lounge here at the airport.
They're coming for
you. And then we also have continuous Bitcoin and Ether futures that'll be launching later this year. And continuous futures have been very popular coming from the crypto world, especially. Effectively, they're just kind of daily settled futures. But they let people get into products, they provide leverage, they provide exposure, and that's a big wave that we are participating in as well.
Uh-oh, are they coming for you? Are they going to drag you out of the lounge? Is the airport burning down, sir?
It's quite annoying.
All right, well, Mr. Flowmaster, we can let you go if you have to evacuate the premises, sir. As we
go forward my plane.
As we keep. Well, thank you for joining us, sir. Enjoy the rest of your time. Don't get killed in whatever's going on there in the airport.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
All right, Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on through the weekend? And then hopefully there's no fires in St. Charles Wealth, sir.
No, definitely no fires here, thankfully. I have a good fire insurance policy in case there is. But nonetheless, just continuing to watch the all-time highs. The Fed's going to be the talk, so we don't have a Fed announcement over the weekend, obviously, but continuing to watch how...
Oh, wait, you didn't hear about the surprise meeting this weekend? They want to get it in before Trump can mess it, so it's happening on Saturday. You didn't hear that?
I thought it was Sunday morning.
Oh, you're right. It might be Sunday. It's one of those two.
Right. Yeah, so watching that and then just seeing where we're going. New all-time highs, always excitement.
New all-time highs, always excitement. And if folks want more excitement in their lives, where should they go? What should they do, Uncle Mike?
Go to stcharleswealth.com, book an appointment with me. We'll have a conversation. We will talk, we will bond, we will learn and talk about option trading if you're looking for a financial advisor who delves in the option space.
Check them out. stcharleswealth.com is the place to go. You know where to go to check out all those cool. And Cboe's been pretty busy. The perpetuals are certainly interesting for all of you on the crypto side, as well as, of course, that Mag 10 Mr. Flowmaster was talking about. You know where to go to find out more. Cboe.com if you want to drill down specifically into all the cool data analytics that the Flowmaster and his team are working on. /RMA is the place to go. That's going to do it for us on the old OB. Back again in a little bit with our good pal, Miss Carly Garner, my nemesis, my first victim in fantasy football. I might talk a little smack to her. What do you think? A little victory smack. What do you think? I'm just a nice. I won't do it. I'll just tweak her a little bit. That'll be coming up in a little bit on Twifo. And outside of the smack talk, what futures options will be lighting it up? Well, you got to tune in to Twifo to find out. Then we're back after the bell to talk all things Thor Odinson, aka the Hot Options Report. Glad to see so many of you are having fun with that bad boy. We're having a fun time bringing it to you, so all sorts of fun. I got a feeling, I got an inkling that maybe Open might make the list today. Just maybe we might have a little Open on the Hot Options Report. We'll see if it can cling to the number one spot or Tesla or Nvidia can manage to dethrone it. Stay tuned after the bell for that. Tomorrow back talking vol with Dr. Vix and special guests. And then, of course, back one final time for our pro friends to talk all things odd on Options Oddities. And then, of course, wrapping up the week with the final hot options report for the week before we're back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.